and thank you for tuning in today. You're listening to WRUULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And this is the Adam Messer Show. I'm your host, Adam Messer. And today I have a very special guest. He's been on the show many times, and he's also a good friend of mine, Matt Lostaglia. Welcome back, Matt. How you doing?
Thanks, brother. I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be back again. It's always so much fun coming on the show, so thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. And so, folks, since the last time that Matt was on the show, and you've heard me talk a little bit about it, but he and I started our own show, almost 2 months ago now, called the Matt and Adam Show. Yeah. So it's called the Matt and Adam Show, and we talk about grit. We talk about doing the work and why it matters. So I'm pretty excited about it. Hey, Bass, you mind playing some live music for us? Sebastian Messer, my son, is going to play a little bit of live music here for us here on WRUU. His band's called Krieger, and he's playing on his Ovation Acoustic. There we go. Awesome, Bass. I love your acoustic music, man. I like when you're playing those instrumentals. So
It's beautiful. I love them.
All right, Matt, do you mind giving everybody kind of like an update of what you've been doing since the last time you've been here?
Oh, jeez Louise. Yeah, there's been a lot going on.
You can give the Volume 1, Edition 2 version of the Encyclopedia of Matt Lostaglia.
Oh, God, this has been probably the most chaotic and absolutely hectic time of my life. And I'll tell you what, man, I couldn't be happier. About it. So I kind of have I have like four big lines of effort happening right now. One is our show, which I absolutely love. I love that we've challenged ourselves in the Matt and Adam show to really get succinct for the 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really cool way for people to get a bite-sized chunk of some cool insights that you and I have experienced through our own lives and through our professional development over the years. So I love that. The show, my podcast, started out as Burn Your Boats, and I've made the transition now. It is now the Matt Lostaglia Show.
Woo woo! I love that.
I made it. A little self-branding there. And
hence the Adam Messer Show.
Exactly. You can sense that maybe I caught a little bit of inspiration from Adam.
Hey, you know what? I took it off of like every other big name. It's like look at it. It was the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson.
Yep.
The Oprah Winfrey Show. There's a ton of different ones. The Joe Rogan podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like it's very fitting. I mean, Matt Lostaglia. I remember we were talking about. You're like, people are gonna have a hard time, spelling my name. I was like, if they can spell Schwarzenegger,
yeah,
can spell Lostaglia. They can learn to spell Lostaglia.
Tipping point for the decision. I was like, yeah, it's a fair point. Fair point.
They called him Arnold Strong in his first movie because they're like, nobody will know it. Like, I love it, man. I love it. The Matt Lostaglia Show. It just has a ring to it.
Yeah, it's nice. It's got a nice flow, and that falls under the overarching company that I have now called Matt Lostaglia Inc.
And I love that too.
I have the website up and running as of today with all of our services.
No way. That's news to
there.
me.
So
that's cool.
MattLostaglia.com literally just got published about 45 minutes ago.
No way. I'm going to pull it up right now while we're talking.
So
I love the new logo,
there,
by the way. I love the mountain.
Thank you.
And yeah.
It's great. It makes me very happy. Actually, that's something that I was just working on right before we got on the phone, was trying to incorporate the new logo onto the cover art there. It's with the business, it's never ending. And I love it. But yeah, so now, I've expanded the lines of effort from the show, from being the podcast is just one arm of Matt Lostaglia Inc. And now we're providing consultative services. So like real resilience consultation. And so if you need one-on-one, like, especially after you're going through and you've listened to the show and you kind of get familiar with some of the tools and stuff that we talk about, and you're having kind of that hard time, like, how do I take these awesome principles that we either talk about on the Matt and Adam show or we talk about on the Matt Lostaglia show, and apply it in my life specifically? Well, that's what the consultation service is there for. So we can help you launch yourself forward through self-discovery and commitment to action. That's what we can do there. And so that's really exciting. And then right now, actually, we have a live training set up for the 3rd of September on a Zoom call. If you go to MattLostaglia.com, that's where it is. But we're doing a free training that is how to change your mind. And so I'm really excited about that one. This is one of my favorite trainings to do. I've done it a bunch, and people, it's so impactful for not taking a lot of time to kind of relay the information. And so we can really dive into it, get it done, and then sit there and kind of discuss how that works and how we can play it out in our own lives.
Yeah, and you are also a master resiliency trainer for the Army, or you're retired now, but that's what your main job was, right?
Well, it was, so in the Army we have these things called additional duties. And so you go and get trained, you could be like an equal opportunity leader. And so that way you provide training to the unit on top of your normal job that is about different events that are going on and ways to make sure that we're not being prejudiced and how to kind of check that kind of stuff. And the same thing with sexual harassment. We have additional duties where people take that. Now you get to certain levels where that can be your full-time job. But I never shifted to doing it full-time, but I was always my unit's master resilience trainer for the past 5.5 years. I performed that function for whatever unit I was in, having trained, at this point, a couple thousand soldiers have gone through my trainings. And it's really good. That's actually what spurred this whole line of business. And Matt Lostaglia Inc. is my base and my footing in the master resilience training that was given to me through the Army.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting because you and I were introduced by our good friend Corey Brooks. And it was, I don't know, a little over a year ago or so, maybe a year and a half ago now. I can't remember exactly when, but when you were looking into doing your show, and I thought it was really interesting because at first it was just like, hey, Adam probably can give you some pointers, about doing the show and whatever. And we just hit it off. And then come to find out that we both love like leadership and self-development and grit. That was something I think, oh gosh, man, it was funny. I remember when we went to do your show the first time, we talked for a couple hours, and and then we ended up because of some technical issues, we ended up having to redo the show, and then we've done like a bunch of shows, and then like it was like, hey, why don't we just do a show together? Because we do these things.
Yeah.
And I love,
clicked.
yeah, I really like, because you and I are both chin waggers and we like to talk. And I love that we kind of force ourselves to do the 15-minute window for the Matt and Adam show. And we pick a topic. So, like, folks, if you haven't heard it yet, I know I've talked about it a little bit on the show, but if you haven't listened to that podcast yet, it literally is for folks who want to hit on different topics of self-development and leadership. And when we say we talk about grit, we talk about, doing the work and why does it matter. Like, we hit those three things specifically because it's like, okay, here's a takeaway that you can apply and use in your life today. Like, when you're done listening to it, you should be able to harness that information and be able to come up with a game plan and take one step at least of action towards that.
Exactly. And that's kind of like our one promise or our one guarantee from the show is that you leave with an actionable piece of information.
Mm-hmm.
That you're not showing up for feel good. Like, yeah, sure, it feels good, and if you're familiar with the concepts, you're like, yeah, no, they're speaking my language, and that's great. We want people like that. We also want people where it's a little uncomfortable. They're like, I don't really know. Like this, like, what is it? Do I have to be courageous? Why can't I just stay in my comfort zone and do well doing the things that I'm comfortable doing?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about that, we talk about doing the work of how to get past that. But then, most importantly, we give you that why. Why is that question that we've been asking since we've been able to talk?
It's like, why does it even matter? Why is it important?
Yeah.
The why.
It's the first question. It's the thing. It's like a 3-year-old kid. You're like, why? Like, it sticks with you, and it matters because it's understanding the motivation. It's understanding the purpose. It's a huge part of being human is understanding purpose. And so we want to make sure that we're providing that to you because that helps with the follow through. You're like, oh, that's a cool tool. Anyway, I'm going along my day. You're like, no, like, well, it matters. It has this impact. It has this significance. You're like, oh. We hope that it serves as kind of like the eye-opener part.
Mm-hmm. I feel like the why does it matter helps also to not only create standards, but also to help you stay in that guideline of like, okay, well, why does it matter? Okay, well, I could just do something halfway and, it'll get done, but it won't be done right. Or maybe it has to be redone. Why does it matter that I should do something the right way the first time? It just helps with those. I feel like that those keeps you kind of like keeps your moral compass or your ethical compass or your work ethic compass or, just any kind of compass. It kind of keeps you like, well, why does this matter? And if it doesn't matter, then like, hey, time to move on. Like if it's
that's the beautiful thing is that we're not trying to fit square pegs into round holes.
Yeah.
If we explain a couple of reasons of why this has mattered to me in my life, why it's mattered to you in your life,
mm-hmm.
and people can't translate that into theirs, maybe it's not a tool that's for them.
It might not be a good fit. Yeah, it might not be a good fit.
Exactly. And it's fine. Like, move on. And I guarantee you the thing is that we shift topic to topic each week, and now they build off each other.
Mm-hmm.
So I really appreciate the fact that we don't do our show in a vacuum.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not... They are independent, but the beautiful thing is they're evergreen, and the skills do interlap. There is that kind of Venn diagram of resilience and grit that you get in the middle
mm-hmm.
when you're overlapping these skills with each other.
Let me do the station announcement. I can't believe it's already 3:15. Everybody, you're listening to WRUULP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And if you're just now tuning in, this is the Adam Messer Show, and I'm your host, Adam Messer. And my special guest today is Matt Lostaglia. And, one of the things I like too, Matt, is that we get along, but we don't always agree on things. And we have a good dialogue about that, and I feel like that makes a lot of sense as well because, in real life, if you're never going to agree with somebody 100% of the time. I don't care if it's your wife, your spouse, your kids, it's just not, and I like the fact that you have differing viewpoints than I do. I have differing viewpoints than you do. And that we talk about this stuff and like, okay, well, hey, did you think about it from this perspective? Or did you think about it from that perspective? Because in everyday life, you work with different people from different social, economic, and varying backgrounds, right? People dealing with all kinds of stuff. I mean, like, there's you never know what you're walking into sometimes with somebody, all the things that are going on with them at that one point. And I like the fact that, we can have, a not an argument. We never have an argument, but we have a disagreement. Like, oh, hey, did you think about it like this? And it's a professional way to just talk about something and say, hey, here's a different side of this issue that I see it this way. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. I think so. I think that the two ways that we go about doing it are pretty great. Is that sometimes we'll have a disagreement about the way of doing something, and the beautiful thing is that when we're conversing, we're not trying to speak over each other. And it's all stemmed from the same place. It all takes root from a place of respect, of mutual respect for the other person. And so because I respect you and because I appreciate your opinion and your thoughts, I actually want to hear what you have to say.
Yeah.
And so, and the thing is, if I'm stuck, if I'm doing something and I'm struggling, and then, I know everything that I know. so getting that perspective from somebody that I respect and that has been in similar situations as myself, but has a different perspective, that can change everything. And that can really open. And a lot of times, even when we have it, like, you'll bring up an idea to me, and it doesn't. I hear the idea, but it doesn't click right away because it's not like a natural thing for me to process information the same way that you do. But then I sit on it, and a couple of days later, I'm like, God, man, that was really good.
yeah,
but
vice
I have
versa.
to allow it in and not battle it out because it's something that I'm not comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
And the beautiful thing is, and the way that also feeds into the show and the way that we bounce off each other is that we're not communicating in a way that's like an echo chamber. Like,
yeah.
We have similar thoughts and beliefs, but it's really great because you and I can have completely different interpretations of something or different approaches of how to get there. And what that does is it presents a plethora or copious tools to people in different approaches that they can take when they're trying to take on these grit increasing practices or exercises and these resilience tools that we present. People have all these different types of approaches to them now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's one of the things I like when we talk about different things, because every time you and I talk about a topic, I always take something away from it. Something that that you share with me or an experience that you had. I always feel like I get something out of that. As far as when I'm learning something new, different things that you've done that it's like, wow, look at this. This is pretty cool. For example, like the resiliency training. I've never done resiliency training with anybody, but I've taught people about resiliency. I've shown people like what is grit. I've given people a lot of different pointers and tips and stuff like that, but I've never taught like a class or a formal anything like that. And I feel like that's a really neat vantage point that you have, because you've had that responsibility to do that. And it's really interesting because there's people I don't care if you look at the same piece of art, 100 people look at it, 100 different viewpoints. And
exactly.
Sometimes I feel like art is so subjective that you're going to have those 100 varying viewpoints, and then there are some things that are really just not subjective, and it should be like, okay, well, this is A and not B, and the reason why it is A is because it is not B,
right?
And, and some folks want to say, well, it could be B, and you're like, no, it's A.
It's really still A.
Yeah.
This water bottle is still a water bottle.
You can feel like it's B all day long, but it is not B. It is A. And, that's something I feel like, is important today, because there's so, like, we're inundated with social media. We're inundated with consumerism and advertising and, things that want to not only grab our attention, but shape our, thoughts and our beliefs, and we have to say, hey, wait a minute, do I have to have the newest pair of shoes as soon as they hit the market in order to, to do my workout? Do I have to have, like that gear? And if you need it, you need it, you know? Or is it one of those things like, am I really hungry, or am I just, used to, buying a sandwich when I go past a certain place, or picking up a cup of coffee? We get in these little habits or whatever. And
oh, and they're so strong. We are. I know it's a cliche statement, is that we're creatures of habit, but when you really sit down with it, and you break down your day. This is a beautiful thing. I know that you had mentioned recently reading Atomic Habits, and Yasmin, my wife, and I sat down. That was the first book that we decided to read together, like as a couple.
Nice. Yeah, and I'm like halfway through the audiobook, and he actually narrates it, so it's pretty sweet.
Oh, that's perfect. I can't stand audiobooks when they're not of the nonfiction variety.
Yeah,
when they're not narrated by the author.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I hate it. I love listening to the author speak what's from the book. I think that's the right way.
Yeah, I think that's one of the neat things about the audiobooks. But I'm listening to it. I'm actually, what I've been doing is I listen to it on the way into work. So I usually catch about a chapter of it. And so another way I'm incorporating that into like my daily life is, today is day 35 of 1,000 days of the Ray Bradbury challenge that I'm doing. And
that's great.
So the challenge is, and I picked this up. I mean, I don't know if it's officially like a challenge or something like that, but I'm calling it the Ray Bradbury challenge. But I watched this like the day in the life of a writer, and it was like Ray Bradbury, and it was a black and white, one of those biopic films about, about him from, I think, like the 50s or 60s and whatever. And I was watching it, and across from his typewriter was a sign that said, "Don't overthink." And I was like, ding, 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 ding. And so I was like, oh my gosh, the only thing I'd ever read of Ray Bradbury's work was the compulsory Fahrenheit 451 in like 9th grade English class, right? Mm-hmm. So I watched this short little biography of Ray Bradbury, and like I'm like, okay, this guy's got the same thing, like don't overthink. He's got it across from his typewriter so he can see it while he's working, right? And it leads into like it was a YouTube video, and it leads into the next video, and I'm like, okay, I'm watching it, and it's like this hour-long talk where he's talking to people, and one of the things he said was like, if you want to be a better writer, learn metaphors. If you want to be a better writer, and he talks about these different authors that he likes or whatever. He said, if you want to be a better writer, read an essay and a poem and a short story. Read one a night for 1,000 nights. And I did start doing that 35 days ago, right? And so, like, I don't read a complete short story in a night. Sometimes I break them up in like 2 or 3 days, depending on how long the short story is. But I'll read, usually 15 or 20 pages a night or whatever after work. But I've been reading a poem, I've been reading an essay, and how I'm incorporating the Atomic Habits, kind of circling back around, is that I've been using that book because each chapter is an essay. It's really like a topic, right? So I've been using that as my essay for the 1,000-day Ray Bradbury challenge. And I love it.
That's
I mean, like
perfect.
the creatures of habit, like you're saying. We all like those. I mean, like our brain wants to have those little shortcuts, and we all like those.
Oh, that's exactly it. That's what habits are. I mean, when you think about like driving to work sometimes, and you look back after you showed it, you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah.
I know that I drove, but I don't really remember the drive. It's because, and you think about how complex a process it is for you to wake up in the morning to get to work. Mm-hmm. Everything from at least from when you walk out the door, when you get into your car, like you're managing a several 1,000-pound vehicle, navigating around a bunch of other people doing the same thing at high rates of speed, and we're so proficient at this, and it's turned into such a habit that we do it as second nature at this point. we don't even think about it. Our head is so wrapped around whatever we're going to do for the day. By the time we get there, we're not even like, oh, yeah, I did drive, didn't I?
Mm-hmm.
And so probably the single biggest and most impactful thing that I personally took from that book was habit stacking.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
that changed my life, because that is how I incorporated gratitude into my life in a more meaningful and powerful way.
Yeah.
Every morning I will get up and I will drink a cup of coffee, just to give people an understanding of what habit stacking is. You take a habit that you're already doing, you know you're going to do, and you have no intention of stopping. For me, waking up and drinking a cup of coffee. And then you take what action you want to add into your life as another habit, and you associate it with that activity. And so for me, gratitude journaling is an absolutely perfect companion to my morning coffee. I have my gratitude journal. I even have a daily Stoic book that gives me little insights of, the historical Stoic kind of thoughts of, you can control the way that you respond to things, but you can't control what happens in the world. So I'll read some of that. I'll write down some things that I'm grateful for while I'm sipping on my cup of coffee in the morning. I'll write down why I'm grateful for those things. And then that changes the way that my brain is working for like the entire day. And so it frames it in a positive way. And then my brain becomes more sensitive to these areas that I can be grateful for. So I'll be at work and somebody will have completed a part of a project, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm so happy that somebody's here doing this, because it means that I don't have to do it. And I don't like doing that. Thank you, John. I really appreciate that work that you did, because I know I didn't have to do it. Like your brain's turned on to gratitude, then it helps build those relationships. It helps foster the ones that you already have, even in your home. And so habit stacking was one of the foundational blocks for me positively changing my life in one of the most impactful ways that I've ever done.
I'm glad to hear that. This book it's kind of interesting because I'm not going to say everything in there is new. A lot of stuff is rehashed, but the way that he presents it is new to me. Like a lot of the stuff that he's talking about, I've already known about or been,
Yes.
aware of and used. I mean, like when you want to create a habit. But one of the new things that I took away from it, talking about habit stacking, was when you want to build a new habit, you have the habit association, right, there that you're talking about. But you also take 2 minutes a day to build that habit. So like if you want to do gratitude journaling and you're just starting off, don't try to do 30 minutes of journaling. Do 2 minutes. If you want to run a 10-mile run, don't run an hour to start off. Run for 2 minutes. And
I shouldn't run 10 miles when I try to run 10 miles on the first day?
Yeah.
What do you mean, Adam?
Right.
It's such a simple thought, but it's so powerful
very
when you
effective.
actually apply it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Very effective. All right, we've got to do the mid-hour break, Matt. I cannot believe it's already been a half an hour, man.
Yeah.
But everybody, you listening to WRUU, LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings Community Radio with Global Soul. And we will be right out back after these announcements.
This portion of WRUU LP Savannah Soundings programming is made possible by listeners like you and Brighter Day Natural Foods. Brighter Day is celebrating its 40th year serving the Savannah community with produce, vitamins, and supplements, and a deli and juice bar. Brighter Day is located at 1102 Bull Street at the south end of Forsyth Park. More information available at 912-236-4703 or brighterdayfoods.com. Many critical issues are facing the residents of Savannah and all Americans, including the coronavirus, homeschooling, and the upcoming general election. WRUU has 3 programs which address these issues: The Common Good on Fridays from 2 to 3 p.m., The Happy Homeschooler on Wednesdays from 2 to 3 p.m., and We the People, The Constitution Today on Sundays from 8 to 9 p.m. Stay informed about these important issues by tuning into these programs on WRUU.
WRUU 107.5 FM is a new and different listener-supported and all-volunteer community radio station for Savannah. Our diverse broadcast and web programming is supported by generous listeners who value our passion and spunk. We are independent of other media and receive no government or large corporate support. People like you are the largest and most important source of our funding. Go to WRUU.org to find out how you can make a one-time or monthly contribution. Thank you.
WRUU-LP Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul.
This is WRUU-LP, Savannah, Georgia, 107.5 FM, WRUU.org. We are Savannah Soundings, community radio with global soul. This is Cite from the album Live at WFMU, March 2000.
All right, everybody, and we are back on air. We had a couple of station announcements there. And we have underwriting here at WRUU. The thing with underwriting versus like commercials is that you do the underwriting as like an informative way to talk to people about like your business or, you know, whatever you want to sponsor the station with. And the main difference is like it's not a commercial. It's not trying to tell you, hey, you should buy XYZ. And we're not trying to sell you on anything. We're just trying to inform you, and also to, you know, if you enjoy what we're doing, and you want to patronize the studio, you can go to WRU.org and do a donation there, or you can, you know, if you have a business and you want to underwrite with us, there's also a link there that you can do that. So I just want to throw that out there to you. So when we have those little announcements and the different, you know, things that are going on around town, that's what you're hearing is that underwriting and those the promotions that we have where we're working with different people and, you know, trying to do things in the community. So, all right, Matt, we are back, man. How you doing?
Fantastic, brother.
All right, cool. All right, so everybody, thank you for tuning in. Matt and I have been talking today about the new Matt and Adam show, and then right before the break, we were talking about Atomic Habits. And I've been enjoying the book. So you said you and Yasmin decided to do that as a like both of you read it together?
Yeah, exactly. So when we started, I was in Georgia and she was in Virginia. And so I told her, you know, that I would usually end my night by reading a couple chapters of a book and then going to bed. And so what we were doing is we'd video chat every night. And so she was like, well, why don't we incorporate the reading in with our video time. So she was actually the one. It was so funny because I had heard of Atomic Habits, but she was the one that bought the book without me even knowing about it, and then was like, hey, I got this book. Do you want to read this one? And I was like, yeah, that's great. I'm all about it. And so what we do is she would read over WhatsApp video chat, and we'd go through a chapter, and then I would drive up there and I'd visit for a weekend out of the month, and we'd read it together. And we've kind of just carried that habit on, ironically carrying that habit on, to other books since then. And so we've read several books together that way, and we're on yet another one. So
which one are you reading now?
It's actually called what's the name of it? It's about psychedelics, and like the history of the medicinal use of psychedelics and how they're making their way back in. I don't remember the name of it.
Okay, cool. I think it's great. I think it's great that y'all are, reading books together like that.
I think the important thing that we wanted to do is to make a culture of reading and a culture of kind of non-compulsory education, non-compulsory self-education inside of the household.
Yeah.
To set the example for the kids. So it's one thing to tell your kids, hey, you need to read. Reading is important.
Right.
And like, yeah, but reading's boring.
Right.
And so then you show them, you're like, no, listen, like, you don't even have to tell them, because telling them, the words just bounce off kids' heads. So, but you show them and you do it, and it's actually a part of your life, then they're like, oh, okay. And then on top of it, kind of the gravy on those potatoes is engaging with them at their level with their books, even pushing them a little bit, maybe beyond their capacity, and being enthusiastic about it. That's what we're doing right now. My Adiana, our daughter, she is reading the Magic Treehouse book series, and dude, I'm excited about it. They're good little books for kids. They're fast reads, like 10 chapters, maybe like 75 pages, 80 pages, in the whole book. And it's a page turner, so we'll sit down, we'll read a chapter or two every night, and then like she comes in, we all pick a character that we're going to be, so it's like we're all reading the book out loud together and like role playing and stuff like that. It's really fun, and it's something that now that we've been doing it and we've made it a habit, we don't even say anything. She just shows up in our room at night with a book in hand, like, it's reading time.
Nice. That's really nice. I tell you, it's interesting too, because I don't have the source, but I saw a statistic one time that said most adults don't finish a book after high school. They just don't read a book. And what I found in my personal life to kind of match that is that people who are readers, they do read. And it's not that the people that, don't read books, they don't read. I mean, we read stuff all the time,
Yep.
but there's, I don't know how to say it, but, there's something about when you decide, hey, I'd like to learn about X, and you go out and you find, a lot of times these self-development books are, content matter experts, in their field, or, they struck gold on something, like Mel Robbins, the 5-second rule, she just struck gold on something like that. It's like 5,
Yep.
4, 3, 2, 1. And it was something that, boom, just took off. And, she's not a psychology expert, but it was something that applied, and she was able to do and use, and she was able to, enhance the psychology behind it and leverage that up to help other people. So I love that kind of stuff. I feel like you don't necessarily have to have a college degree to be educated. You definitely don't have to. But
especially in this day and age.
Yeah, but
like,
you do have
so
to. You do have to put in the work, and you do have to study.
Yes.
And you have to be able to apply that knowledge to be educated. You have to do the work, really.
It's so beautiful. I just wrote a quote that went into my most recent training program that was, you can have the skill and you can have the resources, but if you don't have the will, success will evade you from your life. Something to that effect.
That's a great legacy. Like Joe Rogan says, show me a man who is successful who was born of a successful man. A rich man of a rich man. It's like, show me the son of, the person who built the legacy who builds another legacy. It's very rare.
It's the third generation rule, right? Like the second one can do it. The second person can do it. It's not as likely as the person that comes. And what the beautiful statistic is? I don't know what it is. It's probably not going to be great for 2020, but 2018 and then 2019, the number of new millionaires per day in the United States, in 2018, it was something like 1,700.
Mm-hmm.
1,700 new millionaires a day.
Wow.
And then it dropped to like 1,100 in 2019. But that's 1,100 new money millionaires. That doesn't count all the people that were millionaires that inherited their money. These are people the first time ever in their family's legacy did over $1 million of net worth came in.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Hey, we've got to do the 3:45 break already. That's crazy. I know we took a little bit longer on the mid break, but Bass, you mind playing some live music for us again?
Yeah.
Awesome. Here's Sebastian Messer. That was nice. It was like a quick and dirty boom, boom, boom. Matt, I tell you something, man. It's crazy, but one of the things that we talk about, on the show, like the Matt and Adam show, is overcoming obstacles, right? You there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So one of the things I enjoy talking with you about is like, overcoming those obstacles and, the challenge of that, because, one of the things that we talk about is overcoming obstacles. And I love that. And I've said that 3 times now for a reason, for emphasis. Okay. Challenging yourself when you have to show up and blow up, give 100% of what you got. And one of the things we talk about with that is sometimes your 100% might be 40 or 50% of like what you can give. It might be 150% of what your normal stuff is. But you show up and you give that 100%. You do the work. You put your head down, and you just, you kind of get in that monk mode. And that is one of my favorite topics that we talk about, on the show. So can you kind of tell us, more on your take on that? Because I know
Sure,
you and I talk about it a lot.
Yeah, no, and I love it. I think the beautiful thing about it is it's universal. There's nobody in their life, even if you're born into riches, there's nobody in this world that is going to proceed through life and coast through without any problems. And so understanding who you are and kind of where you see yourself in relation to the world is probably the biggest foundational thing that you can do, knowing that you're going to run into these obstacles, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't know who you are, if you don't know what you stand for, it's been in a million songs, it's been in a ton of books, but if you don't stand for something, you fall for everything,
mm-hmm.
right? So it's important to get to know yourself, to understand the things that matter to you, to prioritize and actively deprioritize those things in your life in accordance with those principles, with the things that you believe in. So then, once you run into an obstacle, you kind of have those guideposts. You have frames of reference for not specifically how you're going to handle every problem, but a general framework like, well, I know that I believe these things, and even though that's really hard right now, I'm going to stay in line with who I'm choosing to be. And that's the beautiful thing, is that you could do this at any time, and you can recreate yourself in a sense where if you see that certain principles are not working for you and you want to choose something else, you could do that. And then you just have to sit down and be specific. And that's one of the things, we go back to like talking about reading, and we think about writing in conjunction with that. There's something powerful that happens when we write things down. And so if Adam tells me, hey, Matt, I really want to run that 10 miles. I'm like, cool, man, that's awesome. One of the most important things Adam can do right off the bat is to write this goal down in a way that's really specific, right? So it goes back to the whole idea of those SMART goals,
mm-hmm.
right? And the thing is, when you make a goal SMART, you're preparing for those obstacles that we're talking about. That's why this matters. That's why this is relevant. Because if you're doing it smart, and smart, there's actually several different interpretations or reiterations of what smart can be. So, but it's specific. So if you're making a goal, you don't want to say, I want to be a good runner. That's not a specific goal. You say, you give it some more guidelines. You give it some more framing. So you say, I want to run 10 miles. That's great. That's a specific goal. Then you want it to be measurable. So you've already done that with the specificity. In this one, it's 10 miles. Right now, you're not caring about the time. You just want to be able to start running and to not stop running until you hit the 10-mile mark. Then you want it to be action-oriented. That's the A, so SMA. So we want it to be based in action. We want there to be something for us to be able to do right now, today. So if you're making a goal and you can't take an action on it for 3 months, it's probably not the goal you should be making right now. If you can't do anything on it for the next 3 months, let's focus on a different goal. And then R is where I see it bounce around a little bit. I see realistic. I see relevant. There's a part of the realistic interpretation of SMART goals that I don't know how much I like, because I like a goal that's at least a little unrealistic. If I've never run more than 2 miles in my life, running 10 miles might be a little unrealistic.
Mm-hmm.
Or running a marathon might be a little unrealistic. But it's because it's pushing myself pretty far outside of my comfort zone. But it's still accomplishable. And so it's that realistic, unrealistic. Somewhere that's beyond your comfort zone. So you're not saying, I want to run 4 miles. Like, that's not a really big goal. You know, you can do it, but it's more of a benchmark on your way to a goal. And then the last one is T, time-based, right? So you want to be able to put a time stamp on it. So I want to run 10 miles by October 31st. Sweet. You've got it, man. You got a SMART goal. And there is now, because you have these things set up and you went through these quick little steps, you're a little bit more resilient to the obstacles that could come up. Because what you've done is you've already outmaneuvered a bunch of obstacles that are naturally sitting there waiting. And when we think about these obstacles we think about, there's debris in the road and you have to avoid it. Or, whatever the case may be, we think of them physically, but these are all mental obstacles. And so if we allow gray or unclear areas into our goal setting, then those are obstacles, because our brain is going to latch in like, oh, well, I don't really have a time frame in which I'm going to do it. I know I want to run 10 miles. I'm really comfortable running this too, and I just keep running 2 miles and 2 miles and 2 miles. So like, well, I'm doing something, and I'm running 2 miles. Like, okay, but you're not really making progression in your goal, and the obstacle is in your own mind. It's you're holding yourself back because you allowed that gray area. You allowed that non-specificity to come in and to infect your plan.
Yeah, our brains are hardwired to avoid pain and embrace comfort.
Exactly.
So, it's just it's a biology factor that's working against you, but you can also trick it because our brains also love rewards. And
yes,
it's like, hey, hey, if I'm running consistently 2 miles, let me push it to 2.1 miles. And then when I do, I'm going to reward myself with a new t-shirt or something like that, or whatever. It's that delayed gratification versus instant gratification. Our brains, they love those little, nuances of like novelty or, rewards or, those kind of things. And I feel like one of the biggest things with the SMART goals is that reward system, because a lot of people, they forget about that part. It's like, hey, I've got this SMART goal, or I've got this goal. and they think about, doing the work and getting it done, but they don't think about like, oh, okay, well, what do I get out of it besides just the reward, of that goal being achieved?
Right.
It's like, hey, how do I treat myself? Like, like, and what is it? Parks and Rec, where they're like, treat yourself, like,
Yeah.
Otherwise, if you don't do stuff for yourself, or if you don't, make it fun and rewarding, then your brain's just like, yeah, we're just grinding through the mill again today, and we know we got to get there. But there's, I want to go more into the next hour about it, but there is satisfaction in doing the work and doing the grind and, getting the work done. But there's also a way to, like we have one of the things that we talked about was gamification.
Yeah.
And there are rewards with making it fun. Like, if you're working at a fish market, like that book was talking about, and it's just a grimy, nasty, slimy, disgusting, smelly work environment, that doesn't mean it can't be fun. You can turn that into a lot of fun. So on the next hour, Matt, I want to talk more about like, how do we gamify stuff and, turn the work into, something that is enjoyable. So
Perfect. Can't wait.
All right, everybody, you are listening to WRUU